Welcome back in to Ben Talks Utah Hockey. Coming at you with a post game. Vancouver taking on Utah in Utah at the Delta Center on the 18th of December, Wednesday night. Just got finished with the game, and I'm going to read through my notes here. A few things to go over pre-game. I'm going to break it down period by period, kind of what happened. I've got a ton of notes. I realized I'm a pretty furious typer when I need to be, and trying to watch the game and type at the same time. And I'm just glad that I had typing school, like lessons in typing when I was in grade school and junior high, and was a decent typer. Let's just say that, because I've got a ton of notes here. Pretty exciting game, and good Lord, I have a ton of notes. So we're just gonna get right into it. Pre-game thoughts. So first thought, why did I start a podcast for my favorite Western Conference team when I live on the East Coast? Good question. The late night games are tough for me, but here I am. It's 1 a.m. and we're doing this. So that's just my that's my initial thought on looking at all of this that I'm about to read through and go over. But might be a little bit longer post game than I intended. But the game did go into overtime. So spoiler alert, we're gonna get into it now. Pre-game thoughts. Can Utah win puck battles along the boards? They need to be better on loose pucks, especially in the defensive end. They're 31st in the league with a 27.8 percentage of puck battles won on the year. They haven't been getting the loose pucks and just maintaining possession when they need to. So that's one thing to look for as we go forward in the season, getting those loose puck battles. Next thought would be, can we keep riding Karel Vejmelka in the net? He's played 13 out of the last 15 games, and I'm starting to wonder, are they riding him too much too soon, too early on in the season? While Ingram's been out with that injury, and it looks like he's not going to be coming back anytime soon. He got pulled off the ice this week during practice. They're trying to get him back, and they removed him back off the ice after a practice, saying that Andre Turney said that he's not where he needs to be. He's not where they thought that they should be in his recovery. So that's one thing to look for, is goaltending, and how long can Karel Vejmelka keep this streak going. Another thought is, can Utah continue to learn to win in different ways every night? It seems like every night they kind of get a little something from a different player on the team. There's kind of the main players, but the main cast of characters that we're always mentioning, but there are certain nights where can you get a little bit of something from someone unexpected in the lineup that makes a little noise in that game. Next thought, can they keep playing the vertical north to south game? I think that's where Utah is at their strongest, is when they keep the puck moving north to south, playing with speed. So that's another thing to look for. Can they contain Quinn Hughes, the defenseman for the Canucks, young defenseman? That's one thing to look for. And Matias Maccelli, he's playing in his 200th career game at home. Got his parents in the crowd. Nice to see that. But can we see some more production from the young forward this year? He hasn't really got off to the start that he's wanted to. He's been pretty quiet throughout the first 30 games of the season. So, all right, those are just my first pre-game thoughts going into this matchup between the Canucks and Utah. And we're going to start here at the first period. Gunther, I'm just gonna like read through these notes. They're gonna be pretty rapid fire. If you get caught up with the names and things like that, please hit me up on any of my social channels. You can comment on the podcast. You can make a comment on YouTube. You can email me at bentalksutahhockey@gmail.com, and I can kind of give you a breakdown on players and things to look for when it comes to names. So if I don't say Utah player so and so, I think that's going to get pretty repetitive as I read through this, or Canucks player so and so. If you don't know the names, I'm sorry, but that's why we're here. We're the more times you hear these names from me, the more you're gonna recognize. Oh, that's a Utah player. So I'm just gonna read through these rapid fire. So first period, Gunther has a big hit on the first shift. He's not a very physical player, but he does finish a check in the corner on his first shift. It's nice to see that little bit of physical play to start the game. Carconi, he has a good chance, and the fourth line pressures. Sergachev has a turnover. It leads to an offsides that would have been a 2-on-1 with a nice chance from the Canucks. He's had some passes this year that he sends up the middle of the ice and they lead to a turnover. So that's one thing to watch. He does it later on in this game as well. One thing to watch out of Sergachev is just his turnovers, but we'll talk about him a little bit later on in this. So next up, Vejmelka. He looks a little slow to start the game on the behind the net passes in that trapezoid area behind the net. The trapezoid is the area behind the net. You'll see it if you watch a game. It's a trapezoid painted behind the net, and if the puck is behind the net, that's the only area that the goaltender can play it in, so he can't skate it into the corner and play it out of the corner. He has to play it within that trapezoid zone. And Vejmelka looked a little bit slow initially in the first part of the game. He looked a little slow maneuvering back there for the puck. So Carconi and Kerfoot, they get a nice 2-on-1 chance, but nothing comes out of it. The Canucks, Connor Garland has a nice look at two shots. One is blocked by Bugstad in the slot, and the second one is held by Vejmelka. Canucks, they get good checking pressure, but a bounce leads to Kerfoot getting sprung on a breakaway. It is stuffed by Demko. Third line, they get a good possession in the offensive zone, but they get no chances to the middle of the ice. They were keeping everything to the outside and weren't really driving the puck to the net on that possession. And I think that's been that third line's Achilles heel is just not getting slot pressure. That's really been one thing that third line has just struggled with this year. Getting A grade looks in the slot is super important. Lots of goals are scored from there. And when I say grade A chance, that just means a goal scoring opportunity. That's a stat that is kept in the NHL. So getting that grade A chance is important. And Utah had quite a bit of them tonight. They didn't capitalize where they could have, but they did have a bunch of them tonight. So at this point in the first period, Utah has been pressuring well on the forecheck. They haven't been letting Vancouver get much established in their offensive zone. The defense has been moving the puck out of the defensive zone with pace, and Vejmelka really hasn't been tested that much up until this point. Utah has been maintaining possession of the puck, but they're not capitalizing on their looks so far. I believe the shots at this point are 7-1 in favor of Utah. So really nothing going for Vancouver, but we're not capitalizing on our shots. So Vancouver has been blocking a ton of shots as well. We had more shot opportunities than shots on goal. Vancouver had 12 block shots in that first period. So one more thing to add to is it was really cool when they pan over to the owner, Ryan Smith, and he's chilling there with Benson Boone, which I'm not familiar with him, but I have seen Post Malone sitting next to him on the ice. And I just think that that's really cool that the owner's like, yeah, like come sit with me rinkside. Like I've got an extra ticket. And he's just getting like some of the biggest names in the music industry to come hang out with him for the game. So he also gave away his box tickets, like his 8 tickets to sit in his suite to just whoever. It was like a first come first serve type thing, I guess, on social media earlier today. So just really cool to see that from the owner. He wants to build Utah's hockey community, and just by doing that, like I don't know who sat in those seats, but you make somebody's day, maybe even their year, and they probably become a Utah hockey fan for life. So I just think that's a really cool move by owner Ryan Smith on his part. It's just what more can you say? Like that's just a cool thing. So all right, so midway through the first, back into the action here. Cooley gets denied by Thatcher Demko, who was playing in net tonight. I was curious to see if they were going to play him, and Demko does get the start versus Vejmelka tonight in net. Cooley, he gets denied on a chance in the low slot, but then he also, seconds later, puck goes down into the defensive zone, puck comes back, and Cooley gets a breakaway, but Demko denies him. He tried to go 5-hole, kind of low blocker side. He slid it on the ice. He didn't elevate the puck, and he tried to go 5-hole, but Demko denies him. And that was one of my keys to the game in the preview show, is shooting low on Demko because of his knee injury. And I think Utah really did try that tonight. They really tried a lot of shots low. And so, shots, I did say that shots are 7-1 in favor of Utah with about 4 minutes left. The Canucks show a little bit of life late in the period, but Utah, they've had some block shots as well. They had 6 this period, and they weren't really letting them get established in the zone. That's kind of the story of the first period, is Utah really controlled it. Brock Besser, he gets a chance from the crease, but it's swallowed up by Vejmelka. Sergachev and Cooley get a 2-on-1 look and can't capitalize. McBain gets a nice hit, and it leads to a chance in the neutral zone for Cooley. And I've been loving McBain on that second line. I just think he brings a physical presence, and I've said that before, and I'll say it again. Just really love that second line for Utah. They play with speed, and they need that little bit of physicality, and McBain brings that every night. And you definitely saw that tonight. I noticed him tonight, just really, really physical on the puck and on the pressure on the forecheck. So nearing the end of the first period, Vejmelka and Kolyachonok, they collide. There was a bouncing puck that kind of got into the defensive zone, and Kolyachonok's racing back for it with Joshua on the Canucks. He was pressuring, and Vejmelka and Kolyachonok collide out in front of the net. It looks really bad, but everybody kind of gets up and nobody's hurt. Everybody skates away, and Utah gets the puck cleared out quickly after that play. And thankfully, nobody was injured. Nobody got tangled up. There wasn't any penalties taken, anything like that. So that leads us to the end of the first, and shots are 9-4 in favor of Utah. No goals, no penalties, a ton of block shots, and I would say Utah took the first period. If this was like a boxing match or an MMA fight, Utah gets the win in that first frame. So moving on to the second period. At the start, Matias Michelli, he gets a chance early in the slot, but he's denied by the glove of Demko. Connor Garland, he gets a chance on the other end of the ice, but Vejmelka sprawls out, freezes the puck. Later on, Hughes and Garland, they try to link up, but Vejmelka again denies the look from Hughes, with the Canucks pressuring out of the gate early in the second. And that's kind of going to be the story of the second period. The Canucks really came out firing in the second and didn't really let off the gas in the second period. So then Kesselring, he gets a shot from the point, but the Canucks get a quick possession. They clear it out. Sergachev, he again has another miffed clearing attempt in front of the net, in front of Vejmelka, and it's just been numerous misplays on his part as of late. I've noticed that in a few games recently. He tries to clear the puck out, and it just doesn't end up going his way most times. So, but later on we see that Demko, Thatcher Demko, goaltender for Vancouver, it looks like he's kind of struggling, just like Vejmelka was early in the first period. It looks like he was kind of struggling to get back into the trapezoid area behind the net to play the puck when Utah's firing the puck in, just dumping the puck into the zone hard around the boards. Demko, I noticed him kind of struggling to get back there and maintain possession for the Canucks. Let's see. Bugstad, he gets a good look on a one-timer from Valimaki in the slot. And then Cooley, shortly thereafter, Cooley draws a penalty at the blue line, holding on Granstrom for the Canucks. So it's our first opportunity on the power play, but they don't get much going on the power play. They don't capitalize. They don't get any shots on that power play. And right after the power play is killed off by Vancouver, Utah, they take a penalty. Kesselring, he gets an interference trying to corral a Vancouver player right at the end of the power play. He was trying to corral him in the D zone, and really he's just got to make a smarter play instead of committing a penalty there. He's got to turn around and skate rather than just grab the guy blowing right by him. He's just got to use his head there, and he's a young defender, so I feel like that's been one weakness of his game is he's taken some penalties this year, a lot of holding penalties, and he's been letting guys get by him and then just grabbing them to slow him down, and it's an easy call for the referee. So he takes a penalty. It puts Vancouver on the power play. But Sergachev and Kerfoot, they get a 2-on-1 shorthanded chance, but Kerfoot can't bury it on a great look. He tried to go cross crease. How do I say? Sergachev dishes him the puck. They're 2-on-1. Sergachev dishes it to him across the slot, and Kerfoot tries to go back across the grain, because Sergachev kind of put it in tight to his body, so he didn't have enough stick out in front of him to kind of push it towards the open side of the net. Demko denies him, and we resume play. Vejmelka, he gets a nice save, short side on the kill. Hughes got a chance again, and when the play's back down in our defensive zone, the Vancouver Canucks, they end up capitalizing. They get a goal from Heinen on the power play with an assist from Hughes. So that's a name that I brought up in the pregame and at the beginning of this episode. And can you keep Hughes off the board? And they did not tonight. Heinen, he puts one in short side, low corner of the slot. He roofs it right over top of Vejmelka's glove. And yeah, we're at 1-0 here in the second period. So after that, Vancouver keeps pressuring midway through the period. They're getting a lot of chances, and they're capitalizing on Utah's mistakes and turnovers, especially in the neutral zone. Just not able to get a good breakout going, and Vancouver's been capitalizing on some chances. They did not outshoot Utah tonight, but they did. One area they excelled at was capitalizing on Utah's mistakes. So then we see Heinen, the goal scorer from just a few minutes ago. He gets a hooking penalty. Keller draws that. Keller Keller's trying to clear the defensive zone, and he kind of does a quick little spin move, and Heinen gets caught up with his stick, and he kind of hooks him down to the ice a little bit, down to a knee. So puts Utah back on the power play. And on that power play, Utah really didn't get anything going. Again, the Canucks really shut them down on the penalty kill. They had a pretty good penalty kill tonight. And after that's killed off from Vancouver, McBain for Utah, he gets a tripping penalty with 1:21 left in the period. He was pressuring the puck in the corner of the offensive zone, and he kind of goes down in the corner, and as he's going down, he's trying to catch himself before he flattens out on the ice, and he kind of hits a Vancouver player's skate and trips him up as he's trying to make a breakout pass. So McBain, unfortunate penalty. It's not one that you like to take in the offensive zone, especially after you just came off a power play, but he does take one. Not really his fault, just kind of the way it bounces sometimes for you. But that gets killed off well, they didn't kill it off yet because the penalty carries over to the next period. If you're a new hockey fan, that is something that you need to be aware of, that even if the period ends and there's still time left on a penalty, it carries over to the next period. So at the next period, start of the third, Utah is down a man. So that's important to note. So we just saw the one goal from Heinen, his fifth of the year. He got the assist from Hughes on that goal in the second period. So it's 1-0 Canucks. The shots are 18-15 in favor of Utah. So Utah's still out shooting them, but Utah's still behind at this point. So start of the third, we're still down on the penalty. It's killed off. It's carried over to the third period, but it does get killed off, which means they expire the penalty. And then shortly thereafter, about 3 minutes into the third, Dakota Joshua for the Vancouver Canucks, he scores on a one-on-one rush chance with Ian Cole pinching. And on their breakout, Ian Cole pinches, and they kind of catch Utah on a really bad line change. Schmaltz did his best. He was heading over to the bench, and all of a sudden he sees both his defensemen pinching, and pass gets sent up to the ice, and it's basically a breakaway. Schmaltz is kind of right there on him, but Joshua, he has a nice little deke. He fakes Vamelka out and just kind of taps it into the net to score a goal. So at this point, shortly into the third period, it's 2-0 Vancouver, and you can tell the energy on Utah is a little bit down. They're kind of going, what is happening right now? And it definitely felt that way. But anyway, thereafter, Utah fans want a penalty on a hit on Logan Cooley from Soucy, but nothing's called, and the fans in the Delta Center, they're really giving it to the ref there. They wanted something. It wasn't a dirty hit, but I guess they just didn't like it. Cooley kind of yard sailed there. And then later on, Utah's first line, they try to get something going with some good offensive zone pressure, but it's turned into a 3-on-2 chance that gets shot out of the zone around the boards for the Canucks. Hughes gets a shot from the point. Vamelka denies it. And then on the next rush chance down, Clayton Keller, he scores one top shelf on a rebound. He gets assisted from Schmaltz. Schmaltz had the initial shot, and Keller is crashing the net hard, and he buries the rebound right in front of the net. And it brings Utah within one goal. So now we're sitting at 2-1 with Vancouver in the lead. And this was the point in the game where you could start to feel the energy in the building shift and the energy from Utah Utah Hockey Club and just the way that they were like, okay, that happened. Keller, our captain, he comes through, he gets a big goal, and hey, we're back in this. We're only down one, and you really saw the momentum kind of switch back into Utah's favor. But I will say, it doesn't last for very long because Ian Cole, he takes, well, I shouldn't say it doesn't last for very long. It lasts, but there was a little deflating moment shortly after the goal scored. Ian Cole, he takes a penalty. He was kind of away from the play, and he got a high stick on the Canucks player there, and just one that he would like to have back, I'm sure. I don't think that it was an intentional high stick. Most of the time they're not, but if you get a guy up in the face and you're right in front of the referee, like he's gonna call it. So puts us back down on the penalty kill here in the third period, and we're down a goal. So Hughes and the Canucks, they get it set up on the power play. Stenlund has a nice block shot, and that leads to a shorthanded rush from Logan Cooley. But Demko, he saves it, and then that, again, is quickly turned around into a rush from the Canucks, and Velka gets a really nice glove save to finish off the penalty kill that Ian Cole had. So, the penalty that Ian Cole had. They end up killing it off. Vejmelka, he came in hot. He didn't have a lights out game, but again, he plays under his goal average tonight with only letting 2 goals in, and he made saves when he had to. We'll go over his stats at the end of this here, but just a little side note there. So Suter, after the penalty kill, Suter for the Canucks, he gets a one-time look, and Vejmelka has a really nice kick save to turn away the goal opportunity. Then McBain, he gets a nice shift to establish pressure in the offensive zone for the second line. Nothing comes out of it, and Utah seems to be losing, like I was saying earlier, they seem to be losing those loose puck battles in the corners a lot more than they should be. The last 2 periods, the Canucks really were pressuring a lot, and just Utah was not maintaining puck possession as well as they should have been, especially on those 50-50 opportunities. So Krause, then, he gets a one-timer from the slot, and Demko denies him. And at this point, Vancouver still playing with the lead right now. They're not trying to make any plays at this point. They're just trying to chip the puck out of their defensive zone if Utah has it in their zone. They're just trying to get the puck off the glass, get it out. They're not wanting that puck to remain in their zone. Then Vancouver, they take a penalty. Tyler Myers, he gets a cross-checking penalty with about 5 minutes left to go in the game, and this is where things turn around for Utah. So Dylan Guenther, a few seconds into the power play, Dylan Guenther, he scores on a one-timer in the high slot from Clayton Keller and Logan Cooley to even the game out at 2. Just, what can you say? Really, I mean, you can't leave that guy open in what some would say Alexander Ovechkin's office and expect him not to score a goal when he's wide open. So, yep, Utah ties it up late in the third period, and you get another point out of your captain, Clayton Keller. Cooley gets in on the action as well with the assist. So Guenther stays hot. That's his 14th goal of the year, and he leads Utah in goals scored. And towards the end of the third, first line continues with some nice pressure from Sergachev in the waning minutes. The Canucks, they also have a good chance with a minute left, but Sergachev comes out of nowhere, sliding all the way across the high slot and blocking a shot, just laying down in front of the net, doing Ian Cole things, just laying down in front of pucks. And that turns into a rush for Carcone with 30 seconds left, and Demko makes a last-ditch effort, diving save across the crease to deny Carcone. And with that being said, this one's going to overtime, all tied up at 2. Shots at this point were 28-24 in favor of Utah. So Utah still out shooting, and they claw their way back to get the point in overtime, and they secure 1 point at least going into overtime. What that means is anytime a game goes into overtime, for the new fans, anytime a game goes into overtime in the NHL, both teams come out of that with a point. The losing team comes out with 1 point. The winning team gets their 2 points for the win, just as normal. They don't get an extra point. They don't get a third point for winning in overtime. I don't know why, but the NHL, it's been this way for a while. Seems to say, like, okay, if you make it into overtime, well, we don't do ties, so you deserve something. It's kind of like a consolation, but as we've seen this year, those points add up, and they are huge in the point race to make it to the playoffs. So both teams securing a point heading into this overtime, and let's just get into it real quick here. It was a quick moving overtime. Both teams had possessions, but Delta Center is bumping at the start of overtime. I mean, it's audibly loud through the TV. You can hear how crazy that building was getting tonight. Stenlund's out there to take the opening draw, and he wins it. So Utah maintains possession. He quickly skates off. Pretty much every overtime, I think, yeah, I can confidently say I've watched every game this year. Every overtime that Utah plays, they send Stenlund out to take the face-off. I guess he's one of their best face-off guys. I believe he's over 50%. I think he's like 55 or 60% on face-offs this year. I'd have to double-check that stat, but it's way too late for me to do that. But he's one of their best face-off men, and he wins the face-off, which is huge in overtime because it's 3-on-3. A lot more open ice in overtime, and it's really important to just maintain possession and look for your chance and your opportunities in overtime. So huge face-off win for Stenlund. It goes back and forth for a few possessions with no shots. Both teams are trying to maintain possession but look for their opening. Quinn Hughes, he ends up getting a couple good looks, but he can't put one home. Vejmelka, he made a nice couple of saves. And then we go to Gunther. He gets a chance, but he can't bury it. And then it leads to a Vancouver rush that's denied. So basically it's just back and forth right now. Both teams not really maintaining possession for too long, but taking their chances, and it's leading to rushes the other way for each team. Schmaltz has a really nice chance on one of these rushes. He dekes everyone out of their skates. Jockstraps are laying on the ice, and he puts it past Demko, but he hits the crossbar in the slot. So he's right in front of the net. He doinks it off the crossbar on a backhand chance, and leads to a possession for Vancouver, and they're trying to get the last shot of the period. So they've got about 30 seconds left. They try to take one last rush chance. It's turned over, and it leads to an odd man rush with Sergachev and Cooley. Cooley's skating it down. He passes it over to Sergachev, and Sergachev puts it home. 5-hole goal with about 10 seconds left to win the game. And the Delta Center loses it and blows the roof off with the goal horn and everybody just going nuts. I don't think anybody was sitting down in that building the last couple minutes of that game. So pretty exciting to see that. So Sergachev, he scores from Cooley and Hayton to win that game. Hayton getting on the board with an assist. It's good to see that. We have not really called his name that much this year. He's on that first line, but he's kind of just been an afterthought, I think, in a lot of people's minds. But he ends up getting on the board tonight, and that's good to see for him. Maybe a little bit of confidence boosting from him. But the assistant captain, Mikhail Sergachev, he gets that game-winning goal in the final seconds, and yeah, it was just awesome to see that comeback win tonight for Utah. Final shots end up being 31-27 in favor of Utah. So they had the lead on shots the whole game, and they kept it. It was really a story of 3 periods tonight, though. Utah taking that first one, Vancouver definitely claiming the second frame, and then, Vancouver had 2/3 of that third period for themselves, but Utah ends up winning that third period and taking it into overtime. So I think I give Utah the 2-for-1 win, or 2-on-1 win for periods tonight, because they just pulled it out when they had to. They did what they needed to do, and just really awesome. Just a really exciting. God, they're just an exciting team to watch this year. I'm so I feel like a proud father or something. Just like, yes, like my boys, like they're doing it. Like they're finally just like putting it all together, and yeah, it's really fun to watch them. Even though it's almost 1:30 in the morning right now, I'm still pretty excited about it. So 3 stars of the game, as announced by Utah. It's Gunther. He gets the 3rd star. He had a goal tonight. Keller, he gets 1. He has a goal. And then Sergachev, he's the 1st star of the game tonight with that game-winning goal in overtime. Karel Vejmelka, he had a .926 save percentage tonight. He stopped 25 of 27 shots. And Thatcher Demko, he went .903 percentage with stopping 28 of 31. So, yeah, final thoughts on this one. I've kind of already gone over some of these that I've just been kind of rambling on, but untimely penalties for Utah, they got to stop. Those unnecessary penalties, those hurt you. I mean, you can't give skilled players in the NHL that extra bit of open ice, and you just can't do it in this league. And Utah coming into this middle part of, towards the middle part of the season here, they're pretty high up there in penalty minutes. So they're one of the worst teams in the league for being penalized. So that really plays a part. It's important to not take those penalties in these games. So that's one comment I had. Quinn Hughes, he gets on the score sheet twice, once on the power play. He's dangerous on the power play. You can't give him space. He's gonna make a play. Commentators kept saying he's real slippery. He's real slippery. He's gonna get into those areas, and it's true. He does. He moves his feet really well for a defenseman, and he gets on the score sheet twice tonight with 2 assists. So, I thought the confidence was lost in the second period from Utah. They've had a tendency this year. They'll start off with a really hot first period, and then they just take a nap in the second period and allow the other opposing team to get back into the game if Utah had the lead. And then it's a scramble. It's either come from behind or play while it's tied and just try to maintain something. And tonight was the same story it's been from the beginning of the year. I think they've had moments where they've shaken this part of their game off, and then sometimes they revert back to it. And they did that tonight. Start off really hot in the first period, and then just kind of lose all momentum and gas in that second period. And yeah, that's just something I notice. That's just one thing that they really need to work on is coming out in that second period and coming out hot, just like they did in the first. So a couple other notes here. I already told you, Gunther, he got his 14th career goal, 14th goal of the season in the third to tie it up there at 2. That's a huge goal. Gunther, he's been so hot as of late. And Utah just battling back to take it to overtime. They got some poised play from their clutch captain, Clayton Keller, and there's a reason he's the captain of this team. You can just see it. He starts the momentum back up for Utah in the third, and he's been finding a way to produce for Utah. It seems every game as of late, he's been what he's done to. I don't know if he's inspiring his guys just by the way he plays, or he just takes it to the net. He takes a shot. He's got a really good shot, but he usually looks to pass first. But he's been taking shots lately. I've said it in previous episodes. This last week, it's something switched for him, and he's been really looking to fire the puck and pick his spots with laser pinpoint accuracy, and it's awesome to see that. He gets so much flex on that stick. And he just whips it home. So good to see him coming up clutch again for his team tonight. Block shots were another thing I noticed tonight. It's something I notice every night. It seems like Utah is playing playoff type hockey. Like, you don't usually see guys laying out on the ice in the regular season to block shots. It's just not something you see from most teams. And I feel like Utah's putting that extra effort in to block shots and get in shooting lanes. And it's at times it looks like playoff type hockey. And when you watch the playoffs this year, whatever team you root for, whatever game you're watching, just watch how different the play is in the playoffs. Every shift matters. Every shift matters in the regular season, I think, too, but I think it's not taken as seriously by a lot of teams, and Utah is scrappy. If you can say one thing, they're resilient, they're scrappy, they're finding a way to get it done as of late. And then last thought here before we wrap up the end of this show is there were a few breakdowns and miscues. Vancouver, they capitalized when they needed to on Utah's miscues. And that's just one thing I noticed about Utah's game is that they got to clean up if they want to win games more handily, like without the stress of a comeback. They don't happen. They're not super frequent, but there seems to be one or two per period that Utah just has a complete lapse in what's going on the ice, and it leads to a goal or a goal opportunity or a goal scoring chance from the opposing team. And that's just one thing they got to clean up. I mean, they make it out by the skin of their teeth tonight. We didn't take it in. Like I said, they scored with about 10 seconds left, and they didn't have to go into the skills competition shootout, which some people like. I don't really like it as a way to decide the game, but I understand it's a necessary evil. I think I understand why it exists in the game in the regular season, because you don't want guys in the playoffs. There is no shootout. You play 20-minute overtimes, and it's sudden death. So I understand why it's necessary. You play a 5-minute 3-on-3 overtime, and then if that's not decided, you go to a shootout just to save guys' legs. There's back-to-back games and travel and all sorts of things that go into, I think, the decision-making on that. But regardless, Utah pulls it out tonight. They don't take it into that shootout. Sergachev buries that one, and just a really good confidence boosting win. Yeah, did they do everything right tonight? No. But they did enough right and at the right time to get it done. And they end up beating a decent Canucks team, a Western Conference team, and they did it at home. Their at home appearances this year haven't been great. They've been about 500 at home, maybe a little bit below 500, and yeah, they they found a way. They found a way. They got some momentum. I think the building got behind them and found a way to pull that one out tonight. And it was just a fun game to see. I was sitting there in the third period going like, oh, like, okay, like it looks like they're not going to do much. Like, and then as soon as Keller scored, I was like, this one's probably going to overtime. Utah plays in a ton of overtime games. It seems to be this year. I think that's been their 10th or 11th game that they've played out of 30 or 31. God, what game are we on? I think we're on game 30 or 31. But again, forgive me, it's 1:30 whatever in the morning here. But they've played about 10 or 11 games that have gone into overtime this year. So a third of their games have been overtime games, and they find a way to get it done tonight. And yeah, just really exciting stuff. But yeah, that's going to wrap it up. I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to upload this and head off to bed. So y'all can be waking up on your Thursday morning and listening to a little Ben Talks Utah Hockey. Hopefully with a morning cup of coffee or your workout or on your drive to work, you can check out the post game show here. Again, find me on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, anywhere you can find a podcast. You can hit me up at my email, bentalksutahhockey@gmail.com. You can Instagram message me. I've got an Instagram. It's Ben Talks Utah Hockey with underscores between each word. And yeah, what else can I really say? I think that's it. Yeah, I'm going to wrap it up for the evening, but please get involved. I really want you to think of some questions. If there's anything that you're questioning or you want to know a little bit more about, please email them to me, comment on a video. This is going to be going up on YouTube. So if that's the easiest way for you, just send a comment. I'll see it. I really, really want you guys to get involved and just kind of let me know what's going on. I want to hear from you. I want to answer questions on this show. I eventually, when the base gets big enough, the listener base gets big enough, like I want to have specific episodes like once a week where I just answer questions or, hey, Ben, what are you thinking about this? What are you thinking about that? Like I'd love to just be able to do that and have enough questions to warrant doing its own episode. So please get involved. Send me an email, send me a comment on one of the videos, post a review on Spotify or Apple or wherever you find this podcast. I really appreciate it. And thanks for tuning in tonight. Well, or in the morning if it's super early in the morning, but thank you for tuning in. If you made it this far, I really appreciate you listening. This is Ben Talks Utah Hockey, and we'll see you on the next one.